Bienvenue à tous. Welcome to Reporters here on France 24. I'm Mark Owen. In this edition, waiting for rain in sweltering heat, Somalia is facing a famine that is threatening the lives of millions. The UN says there are staggering levels of malnutrition among children under 5, vivid in the minds of everyone. It's the last major famine in Somalia back in 2011. It claimed 260,000 lives. Our reporters have been to Puntland, where rain hasn't fallen for 2 years, where people desperately await humanitarian aid.
Somalia is running a race against time and losing. The drought is devastating. It hasn't rained in the state of Puntland for 2 years. Livestock is dying, so are people. Food is rare, famine lurks. It's a struggle to save whatever still can be. Abdi is 9 months old and weighs 5 kilograms.
صح نفقة درادة مركا أول شمون كي متى سايد هذا لكن نفقة درادة أول بوكسو شري محاسبين ونفقة درادة نقطة.
وحكوسو شري وحكينا
His mother brought him to this center for undernourished children just in time. Thanks to the treatment he'll receive, he's likely to survive.
This is a kind of dehydration, and as you can see, skin temperature goes back very slowly, which is kind of severe dehydration with severe malnutrition. He's also having depressed fontanelle, which is indicator for severe dehydration. He also has a sunken eye, as you can see. Even he is also weakness. He can't even cry normally.
Every week, this hospital welcomes dozens of families. 730 children have died of malnutrition since the beginning of the year in hospitals. Many more never made it to medical help. On the city's outskirts, in this internally displaced persons camp, a dispensary provides basic care and triages the patients. There is a steady flow of undernourished children.
I brought my baby here so he could get treated, so they could give him food supplements. I know that here they'll take care of him.
Her son won't be hospitalized. She's given a peanut-based nutritional paste as well as some medicine. Amina and her 12 children have been living here for 2 months, along with other people fleeing famines past in 2011 and 2017. Droughts are almost a part of life in this country, but climate change has made them more frequent and harsher. And there's barely any government help. Somalia is one of the poorest countries in the world, as well as one of the most corrupt. Money from the national budget doesn't make it to the people. The eldest child has to make scarves to sell to other displaced people. Amina can at last feed her newborn.
We're in this camp of displaced people because all our camels and goats are dead. We depended on them to live. So after they died, we came here. We don't have enough water. There's more and more illness. It's really hard. May God help us.
Here, they have nothing. Amina's husband was too weak to travel and stayed in their village. One of her sons is sick, but they have no money for treatment. They spend all their savings on water.
These jerry cans last a day or two. We use the water to clean our clothes, to cook, to drink. It's really expensive. And sometimes, even if you have money, there's no water to buy.
There's barely enough to survive, and yet the regional capital Garowe is less affected than the rest of Puntland. The river has dried up, but it's still possible to find food. The countryside is the most affected, and that's where international help has to go first. The United Nations, FAO, or Food and Agricultural Organization, is trying to find out where help is needed most urgently. But the population is in danger everywhere.
At
the national level, we're in a situation where basically half the population, more than 7 million people, are in a situation of food insecurity. That's enormous. It's more than we have ever had before.
The last big famine in 2011 killed 260,000 people. Providing humanitarian assistance because of the Al-Shabaab terrorist group. But the biggest problem, the team stops in the village of Bender Salem. Until the beginning of 2022, the FAO gave cash to its inhabitants so they could survive the drought. But the money has run out, and since then, a large part of the population has fled.
The people who got this aid really needed it. With the drought, the number of families in need has increased, so we require more help. They have to help the people with what they have. We really need emergency help.
It's impossible to help the village chief get what he wants immediately, and yet the people who have not fled can't wait any longer. The temperature here is close to 40 degrees Celsius, and without rain, life is impossible. Without water, livestock can't survive.
This is one of our reservoirs, and there's been no water in it for 2 years. It's been 2 long years since it was full of rainwater. And the situation is the same for all the reservoirs around here. Look at the vegetation. Everything is dry.
The only store has closed. With the drought, the economy has collapsed. There may be nothing here, but the village still attracts refugees. This family comes from an isolated village, one of the first affected. 1 million people have been displaced since the beginning of the crisis.
I've been here for a year, since the drought began. Since we've been here, we've only been able to survive thanks to the people in the village. We have nothing. We just wait, sitting here.
It's really hard for us to welcome these people. We can't help them. We have nothing for them. All we can do is give them a place to stay. It's very difficult for the village leaders.
A few kilometers away, 125 workers are building small dikes. The FAO plan is for them to gather the water when the rain finally comes, which should allow grass to grow to feed the livestock. A medium-term project, but it provides immediate help to the villagers who get paid now.
What makes things urgent now is the climate, but also the lack of money. People need a minimum of cash to go on to the local markets and get the necessities.
Further north, things are even worse. The weather is disastrous. Strong winds bring sandstorms with gusts of over 100 kilometers an hour. The team received information that a group of displaced people is stuck in the middle of nowhere, and they probably need help. An entire village fled the coast to come inland. They have been waiting for 40 days, but no humanitarian help has come yet.
What made them stop here? Because that's far away, yeah? The coast is far away from them, so they must have walked for many days.
When the drought hit, we rented a truck to get away from all the problems we'd have to face. We stopped here because we couldn't go any further. We had no gas. So this became our destination, and this is where we're going to stay.
There is some water nearby, but it's salty. These families left one unlivable situation for another. To avoid this, action needs to be taken before they decide to flee.
L'assistance qu'on aurait
The assistance we should have been able to bring, if we had both the information and the financing, and especially financing, is food for livestock and all you need in terms of vitamins, vaccination, and above all, access to water. Nowadays, the climate catastrophe is pretty much a yearly affair, so it's clear that even with help, the very survival of the pastoral way of life is being called into question.
But reducing the impact of these crises by preparing for them is well nigh impossible. The government doesn't have enough money or infrastructure. However, since the end of 2021, these civil servants have been traveling the country to measure how the weather is affecting people.
I measure the water table in this borehole to know previously how is the water table, the level of the water table, and the current one during the drought condition. Really, the overall water table of Puntland are depleted, day by day depleted. So the situation is going to the negative side.
Once they've completed their test, the two men come back to the center where all the information is gathered. It's financed by the European Union and provides an analysis of the weather and its impact. It's relatively empty now, but the very existence of such an institution is a step forward. Its director is getting ready for a meeting with the government, and the forecast is dire.
As these graphics prove, the drought in Puntland will get worse day by day. This information helps the government take good decisions and prepare policies to fight against the impact of drought. Today, we have what we need to do the basic work. But we need more money to work in the best way possible.
But the government doesn't have the money it needs, just as they don't have the money required to help the population. Somalia is counting on international help while it waits for the rainy season. Without money, the situation can only get worse. Some 2 million children face starvation in the coming months.
That was Bastien Renouy and Nicholas Spicer with our report. You can, of course, see it again via our website, france24.com. Until the next time, stay with us. Please, stay safe.